Meanwhile, the CNN panel, I mean, the media's tears are in fact quite delicious. And you know what? I'm not going to pretend that I have sympathy for the media because I don't. I don't have sympathy for the media today. It is their job to cover these issues with some degree of objectivity, and they are liars. So I have no sympathy for them. For all the people who are upset about this decision, who feel that fundamental rights have been stripped from them, I have some sympathy for some of these people because I think that they have been wildly misinformed. I think they've been wildly misinformed and lied to about the nature of what human happiness constitutes. But for members of the media, I have no sympathy at all because these are people who are supposed to be covering the news objectively and straight, and they are not. They are just liars. There's a CNN panel going nuts when someone mentions the great and sainted RBG. By the way, great irony here. If RBG had retired while Barack Obama was president, they wouldn't have had this problem. So they sainted RBG, and it's RBG's decision to hold on, thinking Hillary Clinton was going to win the 2016 election that probably ended with the striking down of Roe v. Wade. So good job on the heroing there. Here is CNN.
As much as I would like to see a federal ban, I know that is politically unlikely. And so that, I think, is the best compromise. And in fact, Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that she...
Do not say her name tonight from your mouth after what you just said. You are literally... You cited a case from 1800.
I'm going to go to Abby.
You support a 12-year-old who's been raped to have to actually carry her pregnancy to term. That is what you support. You support women dying in this country if they have an atopic pregnancy because that is what will happen.
Putting words in my mouth.
That is what you
That is
support.
not okay.
Okay, so it's amazing. Again, it's all about saints and about sacraments. RBG is a saint. It doesn't matter that, again, it was her bad decision-making that probably led to this point, legally speaking. But sure, she's a saint. Get her name out of your mouth. I mean, they literally treat RBG and their saints as though they are God, and one of the commandments is being violated. Like one of the first couple, take no gods before me, and their name shall not be mentioned in vain. Right? It's an amazing, amazing thing. Meanwhile, you have people like the NBC panel was laughing at Peggy Noonan. Peggy Noonan was suggesting on NBC that maybe we can start to have some sort of coming together around what's best for women. And of course, this is laughable because we all know what's best for women, which is for them to abort their babies en masse.
You know what the Republican Party should do now? It should use this victory, if you see it that way, to change itself and become a party that helps women, change its reputation, become a party that helps women and children, becomes responsible and supportive.
It's amazing. She's making an actual liberal case, and they're getting angry at her. She's saying we need more child support and more government spending, and they're laughing at her because, again, they don't care about that. Okay, that one of the arguments you hear from the left all the time is, well, if you care so much about these babies, why not more social spending? So here's the thing. I don't think social spending has been particularly effective in a wide variety of these cases. And when there's a family in need in my community, you know what we do as a community? We get together and we actually send money to the family and we help them out. We bring them food and we get their kids' tuition off. Like we do a lot of things in our local community to help kids who are in need. That is a thing that I think is actually effective. But they don't care about that. It's all just an excuse to kill the baby because the argument doesn't even follow. The argument that they're constantly making is, well, if you oppose abortion, why don't you spend more money on welfare? I'm confused. If I don't support money for welfare, does this mean that I'm in favor of murdering somebody? Does this also hold true? If I don't believe that we should just hand cash to homeless people, does this mean I also think that we should stab them in the face? Like what exactly is your argument here? There is no argument. But it's not about arguments. It's about emotional appeal and screaming at the sky. Here is one historian, Ruth Ben-Giat, who is comparing Roe being overturned to Hitler, which is madness considering you have the left actually advocating on behalf of eugenic abortion, which seems a lot more Hitlerian to me than saying that babies should not be killed in the womb.
It doesn't matter if it's somebody who comes along like a Hitler and becomes popular and, or somebody who gets elected or even a coup, because in Spain in the 1930s, part of the atmosphere of making way for a military coup was that women became like they got independence for the first time. They could own their own property. There were a lot of gender emancipation. So every time these strongmen come along, they are the agents of taking those rights away and reversing the emancipation of women in every way.
So it's just amazing. If you're in favor of maintaining the lives of the unborn, it's Hitlerian. And then, again, you have the baseline argument from people like Dahlia Lithwick, who's supposed to be some sort of a legal expert. She was interviewed for the New York Times by Ezra Klein. And she says it's about raw power. What the Supreme Court did here is about raw power. No, it isn't. It was raw power when the Supreme Court seized this issue in the first place. It is not raw power when the Supreme Court turns it back to elected legislatures across the country.
As soon as Amy Coney Barrett comes onto the court and John Roberts is no longer determinative of anything, and let's be clear, his concurrence today really shows that he is now kind of constitutionally irrelevant to the majority of the court. But as soon as there stopped being any doubt about what you were going to get, the court could have done a whole bunch of things, some of which are just optics and appearances, some of which are genuine efforts to say we're going to pump the brakes. We're not going to make it look like this is an enterprise. It is about raw power.
It's not about raw power. It's about there were votes on the Supreme Court to actually go back to the text of the Constitution. But as I say, I've been saying it all show. I've been saying it for years. The argument on behalf of abortion is never clearly constructed because the argument on behalf of abortion is that deeper feminist argument, which is that the distinctions between men and women ought to be obliterated on behalf of equality, and abortion is a key tool in that. That is the actual argument that they want to make. And this requires you, that argument requires you to forcibly ignore the evidence of your own eyes, which is that babies exist in the womb. Which brings us to the picture of the day. This picture, I believe, was featured in the Washington Post. It was a picture of a woman who has to be at least 6 months pregnant by the size of her stomach, by the size of her belly. And pasted across her belly is the slogan, "This is not yet a human. This is not yet a person." Honestly, if you believe that, then you should actually paste that across your face because you're the person who's being inhuman here. You're the person being inhuman. But this undergirds everything that the left says. Right? Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, for example, she came out and just tweeted, "Forced pregnancy is a crime against humanity. Rape is a crime against humanity, and so is it's hard to think of a greater crime against humanity than killing unborn innocent children. That seems like a crime against humanity. Like literally in the name, crime against humanity means a crime against human beings with potential, unborn human beings." But it's not about that. That interest has to be completely ignored. We have to pretend it simply doesn't exist. You have to look at the evidence of a pregnant woman and pretend that what's in that uterus is absolutely meaningless, has no countervailing interest, that all of us were not at one time inside the uterus of another human being. Right? We have to pretend all of that stuff away. And when the left is forced to confront that reality, this is why they're yelling at the sky today. This is why they're screaming, because that argument is not a winning argument. That is not a good argument. It is not a convincing argument. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with all our future content.